no simple answer to that question for two reasons. One, there are both negative and positive developments. Secondly, depending on where you are in the region, the balance between the two is very different. So for example, if you are in countries that are adjacent to the tragedy happening in Gaza, then you are feeling two negative influences, one on tourism and the other one on foreign direct investment. However, if you're in the UAE, for example, you're not feeling the impact on tourism or FDI, but you are benefiting from the higher oil price that exists with this geopolitical tension. So depending on where you are, what is common to everybody is the great sadness and concern about the human tragedy going on right now, the tens of thousands of innocent lives that have been lost, and the destructions of livelihoods.
Of course, the key challenges today encompass geopolitical tensions worldwide and the Fed policies. I know that you've mentioned before that you would like to see the Fed cutting interest rate twice before the year ends. There is a significant disagreement on what the Fed will do or what the Fed should do. And of course, the impact on the global economy going forward. How do you assess that impact? And what do you think the key elements that the Fed should look at before taking that decision?
So you're absolutely right. The Fed is the world's most powerful central bank because the dollar is the reserve currency and because the US financial system is being used by so many people to manage their savings. So what the Fed does not stay in the US. It has spillovers. And already you see this with the strength of the dollar as inflation has remained high in the US and as people have revisited. In the beginning of this year, the market was pricing in 7 cuts starting in March. Today, the market is pricing in 1 cut starting in December. So there's been a complete change. What should the Fed do? In my mind, the Fed should look forward, not just be data dependent, but also take a strategic view of the economy. If you take a strategic view of the economy, the US economy is slowing. And there's a danger that if the Fed remains too tight, it may press the brakes too much and slow the economy and increase the risk of recession. So that's why I think what the Fed should do is to cut twice this year. When it comes to what the Fed will do, that's much harder. It's much harder because this has been a data-dependent Fed. And if it remains a data-dependent Fed, then it will not cut interest rates. But people are pushing the Fed to look forward, don't just look to the back. So we will see what share power will do. I don't think anybody has confidence in what the Fed will do.
You've mentioned that the world is facing so many challenges. And if you are to give the advice, and you've been talking a lot also about the strong dollar and the impact on the economy. If you are to give advice to the GCC countries, would you tell them to maintain the peg with the US dollar or not?
So I'm not in a position to give them advice. If you put the question slightly differently, from an economic perspective, what do I think the right thing is absolutely maintain the peg. It provides an anchor. There's a lot of exciting transformations going on right now, transformations that are fundamentally changing the economies. And the last thing you want to do is introduce unnecessary uncertainty. And if you were to announce a change to the exchange rate system, that will cause all sorts of uncertainty. So right now, there's no reason to change the peg.
I think everyone today is looking for investment opportunities with low risk. Let me put it that way. For Dr. محمد العريان, what is a safe haven today? Where should we invest?
So again, when I get asked these questions, in airports. People stop me and say, where should I invest? And I look at them, I say, I don't know anything about you. I don't know how much savings you have. I don't know what your objective is. I don't know what your risk tolerance is. So I can't possibly answer that question because it is so specific. The good news is you have more opportunities today than you've had in quite a long time. And one of the main reasons is that the system is less artificial. For a very long time, interest rates were kept too low and you had a lot of distortions. So I always ask people, the most important question to answer yourself is what mistake can I not afford to make? You know, when we think of investments, we are always attracted by how much are we going to make? But we live in an uncertain world. So as important as asking how much am I going to make is what is your loss tolerance? Because the mistake that most investors do is they react badly to volatility. And often they end up selling at the worst point. So understand yourself before you answer the question.
But today there is also, again, a disagreement on what a safe haven is. For you, what's a safe haven in your mind?
So again, if I am paying the bills over the next year and year and a half, I would invest in 5 to 6% cash bonds.
Okay.
Okay? If you're telling me I'm investing for my grandchildren, so I'm investing for a 10-year horizon, I would focus on areas, the following sectors: AI, life sciences, and sustainable energy. Because I think those and healthcare are going to be very good long-term investments.
Dr. Muhammad, you always describe yourself as فلاح مصري بعربي مكسر who loves his country so much. Do you follow the news, especially the economic developments that took place in Egypt and the investments made by the UAE, رأس الحكمة, for example? What do you think of that?
I mean, that's been a very important development in this year, because the massive investment by the UAE has enabled two things. One is to put aside all the concerns about Egyptian reserves, Egyptian debt, and allow for a reform of the exchange system. And what we've seen is the black market has contracted. We've seen the dollar rate come from 70 all the way down to 50. So in terms of defense, it has played very important defense. But it's also playing very important offense, because it's investing in areas that are going to have a lot of construction, a lot of labor, a lot of employment opportunities. So it's a very important element. And the key issue is to take advantage of this moment. You know, not waste this moment. This is a critical moment that can allow a lot of good things to happen in Egypt, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muhammad.
Thank you for having me.